Over 60? Discover 4 shocking breakfast foods to avoid and 4 incredible must-eats for vibrant health. The advertisement blared from his laptop, flickering under the fluorescent kitchen lights, as Tom stared at the screen like it held the secret to his existence. 62 years old and feeling like an unrecognizable shadow of his former self, the once-beloved schoolteacher could barely muster the energy to brew his coffee, let alone face the looming specter of health decline. The last few months had been heavy. Persistent heartburn gripped him after every meal, and simple tasks left him feeling utterly spent, like he was running a marathon in slow motion. He wrestled with himself: attend the health seminar or stick with his comfortable routine of bacon and eggs. He could already hear his daughter Jess's voice in his head, the criticism of his diet echoing between the walls of his mind. Her disapproval seeped into his conscience, reminding him of countless times she had pointed to nutritional pitfalls he'd ignored. Would attending the seminar mean admitting defeat? His heart raced at the thought. Every corner of his mind buzzed with anxiety. Tom could already picture himself among a sea of strangers, all eager to absorb the fundamental lessons he had failed to comprehend. Alarm bells rang louder when it struck him. Could his cherished breakfast staples be sabotaging his health? What would he be without his rituals, the habits formed over decades that embodied comfort and warmth? For years, he had devoted himself entirely to his family, oftentimes sacrificing his own well-being for their needs, desperately hoping they would find joy in the sweet legacy of family recipes. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, as he stood in front of the fridge, staring down the remnants of yesterday's feasts, he felt a growing pressure to break free from the cycle. The thought of smoothies and grains sounded foreign, yet tantalizing in its potential. But could he abandon the comfort of familiar pancakes and syrup? The guilty pleasure hung heavy in the air, piling on layers of emotional conflict. It felt like an awakening, and yet, with every fleeting moment of determination came the monstrous fear of his friends and their dismissive chuckles about fad diets and unrealistic goals. They loved traditions that vibrated with layers of flavor and joy, yet here he was, contemplating the breach of those cherished memories for an uncertain health gain. As Tom prepared for the community potluck, his chest tightened with anxiety. Would his new recipes be met with skepticism or admiration? A potent mix of hope and dread coiled within him. The churning of old and new recipes in his mind mirrored the turmoil swirling in his chest. A battle raged for the right to breathe life into his health, to reclaim his narrative. Yet, with Jess's presence looming, his past felt clamorous and oppressive. Would she approve? Would he find common ground with her or risk deepening the chasm that had grown between them? The night beckoned, and as he took a deep breath, he felt the weight of possibility pressing against his heart. Could he truly step into this new chapter without losing the old one? The question clawed at him, pulsing with anticipation, as he prepared to face an evening that could change everything. Tom arrived at the potluck with a plate of quinoa salad decorated with vibrant cherry tomatoes and fresh herbs. His heart thumped in tune with the rhythmic clamor of laughter and chatter filling the room. As he entered, a wave of familiarity washed over him. Faces of colleagues, old friends, and a whirl of joyful conversations danced like fragments of his past. But today, he felt different. The weight of transformation pressed against his shoulders. As he placed his dish on the table, its colors immediately drew sideways glances. One friend, Mike, snorted and remarked, "What's that, Tom? Rabbit food?" The laughter that ensued felt like ice shards in his chest. The festival of flavors he had embraced in solitude suddenly felt alien and vulnerable in this collective space. He caught Jess's eye, her expression unreadable and pensive, and felt his determination waver. Yet, Tom clung to his resolve. Deciding for himself rather than succumbing to old habits became an act of rebellion. The taste of freedom felt intoxicating despite the echoes of doubt. Amanda, a former colleague and nutrition enthusiast, approached him. That looks really interesting. She smiled, genuinely curious. Her support felt like a lifeline. Perhaps he wasn't alone in this venture after all. Pushing the pain of Mike's teasing aside, Tom engaged Amanda in conversation, sharing his inspirations for the dish. He revealed how he had been feeling tired and out of sync with his body. Each word was a release, a shedding of the past that held him captive in inertia. "You should really attend the seminar next week," she encouraged, her enthusiasm infectious. He sought comfort in her words. They felt like one more nudge toward a change he desperately needed. As the evening unfolded, he observed the diverse plates of food arranged upon the table. Each dish spoke to nostalgia-rich casseroles, fry-ups, and baked sweets adorned with clever decorations. Were they worth revisiting? Such meals brought happiness, but at what cost to his health? He felt a stir in his gut, not physical discomfort, but a growing realization that he held the power to alter his relationship with food. With each bite of his quinoa salad, he savored more than the ingredients. The flavors blossomed into acceptance and purpose. Approaching Jess, Tom summoned his courage. "What do you think about this? It's different, right?" Their eyes met, and there lingered an unspoken tension. Would she see this as an evolving perspective or a rejection of tradition? "I think it looks good, Dad," she replied, though her tone was wary. "But are you really committed to this change?" Her crossed arms and raised brow implored him to address the cracks beneath their surface. "Jess, I am. I want to make lasting changes, not just for me, but for us too." He floundered in searching for the right words, aiming for a bridge between their generational divides. "I want to enjoy meals that keep me strong and present." A flicker of understanding passed through her, but it was followed by a frown. "It's just I don't want you to lose sight of the recipe book memories." The irony of the moment resonated within him. The recipes were indeed their past, but how could they forge a healthy future unless he blazed a new trail? Just as Tom began to respond, a sudden burst of laughter erupted nearby. The attention shifted, and next, he saw Mike approach with a marshmallow pie adorned with the sweetness of nostalgia, a stark reminder of everything he sought to distance himself from. In that moment, he felt the impending clash of choices gathering force. Would he stand firm in his decision or slip back into comfort bought with yesterday's indulgence? Something deep within him surged, a quiet realization struck like thunder. He was ready to embrace not only change, but the conversations that would inevitably unfold, the confrontations awaiting him only a whisper away. As laughter filled the room again, Tom felt his heart beat with fierce anticipation. Perhaps, just perhaps, he could carve a new identity without severing ties to the past. This was only the beginning. He stepped further into the gathering, setting the stage for what would come next as the night unfolded, brimming with potential, leaving the future exhilaratingly open. The marshmallow pie, with its glossy surface and sugary fragrance, loomed large in Tom's mind, casting a shadow over his newfound resolve. He hesitated, feeling an almost magnetic pull towards the familiar sweetness, a siren song of childhood that beckoned him to forget. Yet, cursing the pull of nostalgia, he took a deep breath. This was a crucial moment, a litmus test for the commitment he had just professed to Jess. Mike's voice broke through the din once again as he boasted about his latest culinary concoction. "You won't believe how easy it was to make. Makes you wonder why anyone would go for quinoa, right?" The laughter that followed crashed like a wave, threatening to wash away Tom's determination. Clenching his fists, he reminded himself that laughter often camouflaged insecurity. It was then that he experienced an epiphany: not all laughter was kind. Some of it concealed critical eyes and disbelief, and he could either hide or confront it. With that realization, his perspective shifted. He was part of this community of food lovers, and while he could no longer partake in the principles of indulgence they thrived on, he could still nurture relationships through open dialogue. Tom pivoted away from the sweets and togetherness, but absorbed the heat of the surrounding conversations. He approached another small gathering where Jess was now chatting with a couple of her friends. As he neared, Jess caught his eye, and something in her expression hinted at uncertainty. "Hey, I was just telling them how you're going on some health kick or something," she said, meeting him halfway. The casual reveal felt like a double-edged sword. She was supportive, but also framing his journey as a curious novelty rather than a serious commitment. "Not just a kick, Jess. It's about making real, consistent changes. His voice edged with a quiet intensity that took him by surprise. I mean it. A flicker of recognition sparkled in Jess's eyes, but she still held back. You know, it's not just about you, Dad. It's about us, our traditions. She glanced toward the luscious spread of comfort food, where nostalgia danced in every bite. We can create new traditions. It felt bold and liberating to say it aloud. His words hung in the air, met with a silence that was charged with unexpressed thoughts and reluctant acceptance. Like what? Jess asked, her skepticism softening into curiosity. Like recipes that celebrate our health and well-being. Meals that still taste amazing but nourish us instead of weighing us down. The words flowed naturally, an unexpected synergy of passion and purpose. Jess opened her mouth to rebut but paused, considering. What if they don't taste amazing? Her question, laced with doubt, felt like a challenge. Then we learn together, Tom replied, his heart racing at the very thought. You and I can experiment in the kitchen. Who knows? We might discover a few new favorites of our own. Her eyes locked on his, a flicker of vulnerability surfacing in her gaze, the weight of their shared history clashing head-on with this new path he proposed. Tom understood then that he was not just battling Mike or any fleeting jest. This was an internal struggle that resonated with Jess. As the laughter and chatter resumed around them, he was acutely aware of everything at stake: the past and the future, comfort and growth, connection and disconnection. Would Jess embrace this journey alongside him, or would the distance between their lives grow sharper with each attempt at redefining what it meant to be a family? With renewed clarity, Tom felt the stirring within, a blend of apprehension and excitement. He was pushing boundaries, forging a new identity, and the path lay before him even if it felt disorienting at times. Yet beyond that moment of courage, another nagging thought bubbled up. What if there were deeper issues at play, unearthly risks in the face of this new venture? He had to know. The stirring inside him grew intense, curling into a tight knot of anxiety mingled with curiosity. He realized that while raising a fork to his mouth, he might also need to raise his voice. As the conversations around him danced with the unmistakable rhythm of tradition, he steeled himself for the upcoming confrontation that lingered just beyond the horizon, promising change yet again. This time, it wasn't just about food. It was about everything he held dear. The time had come to face not just Mike's mockery, but the sediment of expectations he had inherited. What changes lay ahead? What sacrifices would they demand of him and Jess? As he turned back to Jess, the tension was palpable. Questions hung in the air, demanding answers he was only just beginning to comprehend. As Tom lingered in the emotional aftershock of his conversation with Jess, the ambience around him transformed. The laughter that had once felt infectious now echoed mockingly in his ears. The camaraderie he once shared with friends hardened under the scrutiny of his new resolve. Often, he had resorted to humor to navigate difficult situations, but this time, he recognized the heavier stakes. This was about more than food, it was about connection and legacy. Determined, Tom retreated into a small corner of the bustling room, seeking a moment of solitude. He could almost feel the familiar warmth of his mother's kitchen, the miles of laughter, and the sense that had been woven into the fabric of his childhood. But tonight, those memories felt like chains rather than comfort. He remembered how they had all gathered around the table, sharing meals that brought joy yet contributed to his stagnation. The paradox of nostalgia cut deep. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through health food blogs. He was half tempted to find an easy recipe to impress Jess, but he needed more than that. Deep down, he knew they needed to connect with each other through something more profound. The question loomed. How could he invite Jess into this new world while not alienating her from the comfort of their traditions? Taking a breath, he paused over a video that promised delicious, healthy meals for families. An idea began taking shape. What if they could invite a few friends over and host a healthy cooking night? Tom would take the lead, and in doing so, perhaps he could transform the perception of their family culinary landscape. His pulse quickened. He could see the kitchen buzzing with excitement. Laughter shared over chopping vegetables rather than sugar-laden comfort food. But doubt seeped in. What if they failed? What if the new recipes didn't capture Jess's interest, or worse, reminded her too starkly of what they were leaving behind? Yet this fear clashed with his growing desire to confront his inner critics. both external and self-imposed. Tom winced at the voice of Mike, likely to roll his eyes at such an endeavor. Still, he'd come to realize that facing embarrassment was less daunting than forfeiting a genuine attempt at connection. With resolve, he texted Jess, "How about we host a healthy cooking night with some friends? Just us, maybe Mike and his crew. I want to create something new together." The response was immediate, a burst of what? Followed by a series of questioning emojis. A slight tension twisted at the base of his stomach. He sensed her doubts through the screen, but also an opening for conversation. "Why don't we brainstorm recipes together?" he added before she could respond again. That suggestion had the potential to pull them both in, collaborating rather than imposing his vision upon her. This felt different. He could see the wheels turning in her mind, maybe contemplating the chance to connect with him beyond the scope of tradition. The seconds dragged as he awaited her response, the crowd around him fading. When the message came, it felt like both a retreat and an invitation. "Fine, but I get to choose some unhealthy stuff too. Deal?" Relief washed over Tom, mingled with anticipation. There it was, that spark of compromise. They could turn this into a playful battle of culinary creativity, healthy versus indulgent. He felt a flicker of hope. It was a chance to glow in the warmth of their tradition while evolving into something new. As he closed his phone, a sense of purpose took root within him. He could almost feel the permission of past generations guiding him, urging him to meld innovation with nostalgia. Yet, residual anxiety hummed in his veins. What other challenges lay ahead in this endeavor? Would Mike derail his efforts with skepticism? Tom understood now that confronting inevitable setbacks was part of the growth he sought, not just personally, but for Jess as well. Bright culinary days awaited them, but ahead loomed the specter of judgment. Would the outcome forge a new chapter, or would it invoke the ghosts of old expectations? A lingering question nestled in his mind, urging him to confront not only his own transformation, but also how he navigated others' reactions. As Tom rejoined the festivities, the tension of anticipation and uncertainty hung heavily in the air. The next step would test not just his commitment to change, but also the survival of a family legacy now at a crucial crossroads. Would they forge new pathways together, or would Tom's efforts dissolve into nostalgic sweetness, leaving them both at an emotional impasse? Tom couldn't shake the buzz of excitement mixed with trepidation as he launched into the planning of their cooking night. The upcoming event loomed large in his mind, each detail swirling in an exhilarating, if daunting, dance. He was headed into uncharted territory, pushing against the confines of expectation while also grappling with the weight of history. The next morning, he set a tight schedule. He had days to gather recipes, think through the logistics, and sprinkle in elements that would make Jess feel like she had a stake in this venture. Researching healthy meals took precedence, but so did locating the indulgent dishes that would nod to tradition. He wouldn't allow nostalgia to be relegated to mere memory. As he mapped out a plan, Tom reminded himself of the delicate balance this cooking night represented. Could he weave together their culinary past without suffocating their present? Every recipe selection felt consequential, a ripple effect of choices that would either build a bridge or shatter it. He could feel the heavy scrutiny of his own doubts mixed with the expectations of those around him. While perusing recipes that included kale and quinoa, his phone buzzed. Jess had sent him a short list of her favorite comfort foods. Tom glanced over the titles, each name pounding at his heart like an old, familiar rhythm. Mac and cheese, loaded nachos, and chocolate chip cookies burrowed through the defenses he'd built. Although he initially felt a pang of dread, he caught himself. Rather than view these choices as barriers, he began to see them as opportunities. He sighed as he considered how these comfort foods could be reimagined. Substituting ingredients, engaging in the alchemical transformation of flavors, while preserving the essence of what they shared. This could be the nexus of their growth, a way to elevate fond memories while paving new paths. With renewed purpose, he jotted down notes, merging lightened versions of her favorites into their planned menu. The two of them could grapple with these new recipes together, laying bare their culinary insecurities and unveiling the hidden talents that had yet to surface. Yet, as Tom dove deeper into the preparations, the specter of Mike loomed larger. He could almost hear Mike's skeptical voice echoing. "Healthy cooking night? Really, Tom? Who do you think you're fooling?" A smirk of derision played across Tom's mind, pushing him to suppress the anxiety that threatened to derail his vision. Engaging with Mike's skepticism might be as critical as working through the recipes. He did need a game plan that accounted for Mike's usual critical lens. Thus, Tom decided he would not only prepare to face his internal struggles, but also to counter Mike's jibes with unwavering confidence. To this end, he reviewed the nutritional benefits of the meals they would prepare, arming himself with knowledge that could silence doubt with well-founded arguments. This wasn't merely about cooking. It was about fostering dialogue and unearthing deeper understandings within himself and those he loved. As the day of their cooking night drew nearer, Tom wrestled with excitement and anxiety. What if everything fell apart like it sometimes did when everyone in his family gathered? Would the masks he had crafted to cover insecurities suffer damage under the scrutiny of friends? But this event felt different. It was pulled from a place of vulnerability, a chance to deepen not only his relationship with Jess, but also his self-understanding. Before long, he could sense the exponential growth awaiting him. The countdown began, engrossing him further in preparation mode. Fretting over supplies, timing, flavors, and even booth seating formed the backdrop for introspection. Would he be ready to bridge the past with the present? And undeniably more important, could the night spark rejuvenated connections, or would it lead him to rediscover limits he thought no longer applied? As the day arrived, infused with youthful anticipation and biting uncertainty, Tom found himself standing in the kitchen, ready to confront what lay at once alluring and daunting. Would he seize this moment as a testament to change, or would it lead him to question his commitment to something pure? The future felt suspended, and the kitchen buzzed with potential as he whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning." Tom took a deep breath, the smell of garlic and herbs wafting through the air as he stood in front of the stove. The ingredients lay laid out, vibrant and fresh, a tangible representation of his ambition. Chopping vegetables was meditative, allowing his thoughts to swirl, rife with excitement, yet tangled in doubt. The sound of a knife striking the cutting board echoed his inner rhythm, steady but punctuated by the anxiety that lay beneath. As the timer ticked away quietly in the background, it became a constant reminder, urging him forward. He had chosen to prepare a lightened version of Jess's comfort foods, but the true challenge lay in executing this vision. Cooking felt like an act of negotiation with his own insecurities. Every cut and mix resonated deeply with him. He was not merely preparing a meal, he was sculpting a new narrative. He arranged everything meticulously, colors that sang together, aromas that swirled to create a symphony of recently forged memories. This wasn't just about Jess. It was about who he could become. Each dish held the potential to reveal something new about himself, to communicate a side that had long been buried beneath expectations. The looming shadow of Mike's voice nagged at him throughout the preparation. "You know you're out of your depth, right?" Tom shook his head, an attempt to cast off the negativity. Recognition was vital. He had to acknowledge that Mike's criticism had often stung too deeply. Those words lingered like an unwelcome fog, threatening to obscure his newfound clarity. Yet, rather than harbor resentment, Tom sought to reframe Mike's skepticism as a catalyst for his determination. "Prove them wrong," he whispered under his breath, channeling that simmering tension into the food he was creating. With every whisk of the batter and sprinkle of spices, he crafted a sort of armor against doubt and negativity. He was becoming a chef not just in terms of skill, but in approach one who embraced transformation, both with the ingredients and within himself. Jess arrived with a bright smile and a grocery bag in hand. Her exuberance was infectious, a contrast to the mental whirlpool that had been surrounding him. As she entered, Tom felt a shift in the energy of the kitchen. It was no longer just about the food and the cooking night. It became a shared space filled with laughter, expectations, and the warmth of companionship. "Wow, this looks amazing," Jess exclaimed as she peered over his shoulder. The praise struck him, stirring something within. Was it fair to let her excitement unravel his insecurities? In that moment, Tom recognized an opportunity to foster transparency. He could own his fears instead of letting them govern him. "Thanks. I was worried I messed it all up," he admitted, vulnerability spilling into their conversation. Jess turned to him, her eyes wide with genuine curiosity. Why would you think that? A pause hung in the air, heavy with honesty. Here was his moment. It's just, he hesitated, taking a leap. I don't know what we're really facing together. I don't want to disappoint anyone. Her expression shifted from surprise to something softer, understanding wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. This isn't about perfection. It's about us just being together and enjoying the process. Isn't that the point? Tom let her words settle, folding into a realization. It was not merely about culinary creation. It was about navigating their pasts, their vulnerabilities, and the joys they had encountered along the way. He felt barriers eroding as they stood together, side by side in this tiny kitchen, forging both recipes and relationships. However, the clock was ticking, and time pressed on them. Doubts still bubbled under the surface, unaddressed and simmering. What would happen when the friends arrived? Would he hide away behind the facade of a successful gathering or crumble under unfamiliar scrutiny? His mind danced between opportunities and risks, questioning if he would reveal his true self or retreat into shadows. As the doorbell rang, signaling the arrival of guests, Tom's heart raced. The moment had come to confront not just the reality of their cooking night, but also the potential for deeper connection. He looked at Jess, her enthusiasm radiating hope, and he realized it was now or never. With a nod towards her, he took a deep breath and prepared to step fully into the evening, unearthing not just comfort food, but perhaps aspects of himself that had long been hidden. The time had come to face not only the kitchen pressures, but the introspective truths that awaited within the laughter and camaraderie of his friends. Had he truly begun this journey of transformation, or would he falter when it mattered most? The door swung open, revealing two beaming friends, Amanda and Jake, with a chorus of cheerful greetings flooding the room. The energy shifted instantly, a vivid contrast to Tom's state of anxious anticipation. Their laughter filled the kitchen, instantly banishing the palpable tension that had settled in the corners just moments before. "Hey, what smells so good?" Jake called out, his eyes lighting up as he caught sight of the colorful spread on the counter. Tom's stomach nodded. The performance was underway. "Just something special for tonight," he replied, his voice steady but tinted with uncertainty. As Amanda dove into the kitchen, complimenting his work, Tom felt their excitement merge with his simmering apprehension. Each compliment felt like a gentle push and nudge toward embracing his unfolding identity. Here they were, excited about the meal he decrafted, yet all he could feel was the weight of expectations pressing down on him. "Are you going to show us how to make it?" Amanda's eyes sparkled with anticipation, and Tom froze momentarily. In this instance, he had two choices: to shy away from the spotlight or embrace it and reveal the passion that fueled his culinary attempts. "Sure, I'd love to." His response surprised even him. Harnessing their energy, Tom moved into teaching mode. He explained the steps he'd taken in his preparations, consciously suppressing the voice that reminded him of his limitations. As he demonstrated, he could feel the thrill of acceptance seep into his bones. Yet, in the back of his mind, doubt lurked, manifesting as a persistent whisper. Was this confidence genuine, or was it a mask? Could he maintain it when the looming presence of Mike's skepticism came back to haunt him? As laughter erupted over a cooking mishap, something he would have normally found mortifying, he found himself unexpectedly amused, recognizing that this moment was not about perfection. It was about connection, a point Jess had made so unequivocally. "Can I help with anything?" Jake interjected, his eagerness palpable. It struck Tom that this was a chance to delegate without the fear of being perceived as incapable. He was learning to share responsibility, to collaborate, instead of hiding behind the illusion of complete control. "Sure, can you slice these?" he said, handing Jake a knife with a newfound sense of ease. It was an act of trust, and, more importantly, a surrender of the perfectionism that had nearly suffocated him. As they cooked together, immersed in a whirlwind of ingredients and laughter, Tom began to sense layers of his identity gradually peeling away. There was an undeniable satisfaction in molding relationships through the shared endeavor of creating something together. With every stir of the pot, he was not only infusing the ingredients with flavor, but also weaving the fabric of friendships that felt incredibly nourishing. However, the arrival of the remaining friends brought in a wave of fresh energy that was tinged with uncertainty. Would they weather the mess and macerated moments as easily as Amanda and Jake had? Anxiety clung to him, yet he resolved to meet this challenge head-on. When the door opened again, his heart quickened with the realization that the evening would demand more than culinary flair. Behind those friendly faces would lay the expectations of their past experiences and the weight of his own inner discourse. "Hey everyone, we're celebrating a new recipe tonight," Tom announced with renewed vigor. As he faced them, standing in his imperfect, yet cozy kitchen, he reminded himself that he was no longer merely a figure driven by doubt. He was a man who had taken steps toward an authentic self, willing to embrace vulnerability in front of those who mattered most. The grilling light of expectations turned upon him, and for the first time, instead of shielding himself from the heat, he welcomed the challenge, standing tall and ready. But just as he sensed the momentum shift, Mike's voice broke through his thoughts, hauntingly clear. "You'll never measure up." The sharpness of that critique sliced through the warmth in the kitchen, and Tom found his moment of truth crashing back in. How would he face Mike's doubts amidst the camaraderie? Would he allow those voices to shield him once again, or rise to the occasion, embracing the journey ahead, regardless of the outcome? The evening escalated, laughter mingling with the sizzling sounds of the stove, leaving Tom on the precipice of discovery. What would he choose when the shadows of the past threatened to engulf him once more? As the laughter crested in the kitchen, Tom's heart raced, a tension coiling in his stomach. Every smile, every cheer made Mike's words echo even louder. "You'll never measure up." Those words lingered in the air like smoke from the bubbling pots on the stove, suffocating him with self-doubt. The room brimmed with expectancy, yet Tom felt as though he were drowning in a sea of uncertainty. He commanded attention, and yet, the flickering flame of confidence he had kindled was threatened by the icy tendrils of insecurity creeping back into his thoughts. What if they could see through him, see the imposter hiding behind the culinary showmanship? Amanda's voice broke through the fog. "Tom, what's the next step?" Her question brought him back, and he realized the importance of this moment. He wanted to inspire, to share, not just a recipe, but something deeper, a slice of his evolving self. "Next, we're going to make the sauce," he said, forcing a steadiness into his voice. As he combined ingredients into a simmering pot, the rich scents enveloped him, grounding his frayed nerves. Maybe he could use this moment not just to teach, but to recalibrate his own view of himself. Standing amidst friends, cooking with them, he wasn't merely a novice pretending to be a chef. He was an explorer of flavors, an architect of experiences. Jake's energetic bustle at the counter broke his reverie. "Utensils?" he quipped, tossing a ladle over the counter. The act ignited laughter, and Tom felt a warm rush of gratitude for the camaraderie blooming around them. Their laughter repelled the creeping doubts, and he decided he could not let Mike's scorn define him or this night. They worked in harmony, each stirring, chopping, and seasoning, while sharing snippets of their lives. These weren't just friends, they were anchors. With each shared story, each hollow laugh when things didn't go according to plan, he understood that vulnerability wasn't his enemy, it was his ally. Such connections manifested the courage he had lacked for so long. Yet, in the back of his mind, the question loomed large. How would Mike react if he saw Tom in this light? Would he scoff, belittle his attempts, diminish the joy resonating in these walls? The thought was unsettling. But what if he finally stepped into the confrontation Mike represented? As they prepared the dish together, Tom couldn't ignore the growing sense of empowerment coursing through him. The culinary missteps, the accidental spills, none of these moments mattered as much as the laughter they spurred. With each bite they took during the tasting, Tom could feel his self-constructed walls cracking, the fear dissipating into the steam floating from the pots. "Tom, this is incredible." Amanda's voice rang clear, and in her affirmation, he felt a surge of validation. Suddenly, amidst the camaraderie, he wondered if it was possible to forge a new narrative, not one dictated by Mike's cynical judgment, but one crafted through authentic experience. However, just as Tom welcomed this exhilaration, the doorbell rang again. Could it be Mike? The thought hit him like a cold gust of wind. A moment of silence fell over the kitchen, everyone glancing toward the door, the anticipation charge heightened. "Who else is coming?" Jake asked, clearly oblivious to the tension creeping into Tom's shoulders. Taking a deep breath, Tom faced his friends, forcing himself to exude confidence despite the gnawing uncertainty inside. "Let us show them what we've created," he declared, a decision bubbling within him. No longer would he hide from confrontations or the shadows of self-doubt. He decided to face whatever was beyond that door, even if it carried the weight of past criticisms. As he marched toward the door, a new determination swelled in him. This was his moment, a defining step in acknowledging his worth. The fresh scents of the kitchen intertwined with his resolve, spurring him forward into this unknown. Just as he reached for the doorknob, the cold metal biting into his palm, Tom held his breath, steeling himself. Whatever awaited him could no longer shackle his emerging spirit. What he didn't realize, however, was that out there could exist not just Mike's skepticism, but also a revelation that could challenge everything he thought he knew about himself. As the door swung open, Tom prepared for whatever awaited him, but what he didn't anticipate was the truth that would confront him head-on, urging him to redefine not only his culinary journey, but also the very essence of who he was prepared to become. Tom opened the door, and the sight that greeted him was not Mike, but an unexpected visitor, Sarah, his old culinary school mentor. Her presence was disarming, her bright smile contrasting sharply with the tension that had coiled around Tom's chest. He hadn't seen her in years, and the disheveled state of his thoughts gave way to a rush of nostalgia. "Tom," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. "I heard you were doing a cooking night. I couldn't resist popping by to see what you've concocted." In a heartbeat, Tom's anxiety transformed into a mix of surprise and curiosity. As his friends trailed in from the kitchen, Sarah's energy enveloped the room, infusing it with vitality. Memories of his time in culinary school rushed back, flooding him with warmth. Come in," he urged, inviting her inside. As she settled in, his initial embarrassment at the casual atmosphere faded. Perhaps this chance encounter was a cosmic nudge. He needed a catalyst for his personal evolution. "How about you let me taste what you've created?" she suggested, peering curiously at the simmering pots on the stove. Tom felt a jolt of anxiety surge once more. Would he measure up to her expectations? "Give me a moment," he stammered, hurriedly plating a sample of the sauce they'd made earlier. The kitchen buzzed with excitement as they gathered close, eager for the verdict. Tom watched Sarah's expression keenly as she took her first taste. To his relief, her facial expression transformed into one of delight. "This is fantastic, Tom. You've really honed your skills." As his friends cheered, Tom was struck not just by her praise, but by the profundity of her words. It wasn't merely validation, it was confirmation that he had grown, that he could learn. In that moment, Mike's voice faded, a distant echo growing less powerful against the backdrop of genuine support. "Where did this come from?" Sarah probed, her brow arched inquisitively, those rich brown eyes narrowing as if looking not just into a pot, but into his very soul. It's been a journey," Tom confessed, feeling a rush of emotions erupt like the bubbles in his sauce. "I've struggled with my confidence, but tonight, I'm here with friends, sharing something I've created." Sarah nodded knowingly. The fear of not measuring up, it can cripple the most talented chefs. But remember, passion is your most potent ingredient. Her words ignited something deep within him, an ember of understanding. For so long, he had let his insecurities dictate who he believed he was. But what if passion could be the foundation upon which he built his culinary identity? While the evening unfolded with laughter and camaraderie, Tom's mind spun. Each compliment from Sarah was like a key unlocking hidden potential. They talked about careers, the ups and downs of the culinary world, and how fear had played a role in blinding him to his strengths. With each story Sarah shared, Tom began to recognize patterns within himself, of burgeoning talent hidden behind layers of doubt and past failures. He realized he spent far too long viewing Mike's criticisms as truths instead of stepping into his own narrative. He decided it was time to confront more than just Mike. It was time to confront the inner voice that echoed negativity, perpetuating a cycle of limitation. As the night wore on, Tom shared more of his cooking journey, the tales of stumbles, and the lessons hidden within them. The laughter and encouragement enveloped him like a warm blanket, slowly dissolving the cold grip of self-doubt. Yet, even amid this newfound clarity, An unsettling thought rippled through him. How would he articulate this awakening when confronted with Mike? What words could encapsulate his transformation? How could he communicate the depth of his evolution? The air crackled with possibility as the evening drew to a close. Tom stood at a crossroads between the person he had been and who he was becoming. With Sarah's encouragement echoing in his mind, he felt the rush of a pivotal choice looming ahead. And as everyone moved toward the door, preparing to leave, Tom realized it was not just Mike who awaited him. It was the version of himself that he would have to face. With a heart full of newfound determination and hope, he resolved nothing would hold him back. Tomorrow, he murmured to himself, I'll start a new chapter. Yet even as he declared that intention, the weight of Mike's disapproval hovered in the air. The next day would demand a confrontation, one that would challenge not just the perceptions of others, but reshape the very foundation upon which he intended to build his future. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the traces of yesterday's culinary adventure. Tom stood at the counter, heart racing as he began a brand new wave of preparation, his first breakfast in his transformative journey. No longer was it just a meal, it was a declaration. Today, he had committed to crafting a breakfast that embodied his recent revelations. It would not be heavy, nor would it be laden with guilt. He envisioned a bowl filled with vibrant fruits, creamy Greek yogurt, and a sprinkle of nuts and seeds, a tribute to the new identity he was forging. As he chopped fresh strawberries, he allowed the joy of colors and flavors to invigorate his spirit. Gone were the layers of grease and excess. He was filled with a newfound energy that buoyed him up. This was more than a meal. It was an affirmation of every conscious decision he made to reclaim his health. Each ingredient represented another step forward, a conscious choice echoing the courage he'd shown the night before. He could still hear the laughter, feel the connection grown amid culinary exploration. Recalling Amanda's encouragement and Sarah's wise words ignited a fire within him that refused to flicker out. He had the power to carve out new traditions for his family, and especially to reconnect with Jess. That afternoon, he decided to invite Jess over, to involve her in this new era of their culinary lives. When she arrived, the house smelled welcoming, the dining table adorned with colorful bowls, each brimming with fruits ripe for exploration. Wow, Dad, this looks amazing, Jess exclaimed as she stepped inside, a mixture of surprise and intrigue lighting up her features. It's just breakfast. Tom tried to downplay it, though the pride seeped into his voice. I wanted us to try something different today. As they settled in, she tentatively took in the spread of healthy ingredients, her wariness colliding with curiosity. Are you sure about this? She asked, glancing over the selections. I mean, where's the bacon? Tom smiled gently. No bacon today, but I think this can taste just as good. The discussion flowed freely as they prepared the meal together. Jess joined in, slicing fruits and mixing yogurt, their laughter echoing in the small space. With each interaction, Tom felt the distance between them dissolve a little more. Pushing Mike's skepticism to the back of his mind, he focused on nurturing their connection through this new adventure. Remind me why we're doing this, she asked, a playful tilt appearing in her expression. I want some new traditions with food and health and connection, Tom said simply, daring to challenge the culinary norms that had defined their past. We can keep what we love about our old traditions while making room for new ones that make us better. To be honest, I like those traditions a lot, Jess admitted. The food we grew up with, it felt comforting. Me too, Tom nodded. But I see this as an opportunity to create something that honors those memories while allowing us to thrive in the present. As he spoke, Tom felt a surge of confidence. He was not merely advocating for healthy choices. He was reshaping the framework of their shared experiences and inviting Jess to become an active participant. If he could redefine eating in a way that honored both health and nostalgia, perhaps they could maneuver through these culinary landscapes together. Each bite of colorful fruit and homemade granola felt like a small victory, affirming the changes they were making. Sharing a meal filled with laughter became the catalyst for deeper conversations. As the food nourished their bodies, it also fortified their relationship, the real essence of their experience together. Later that evening, amidst the feeling of satisfaction that came from familial connection and good nutrition, Tom found himself shifting his focus. He wasn't just prepared to face Mike. He was ready to confront all those voices that had silenced his ambitions for too long. He knew Mike would be critical. He might even mock his choices. But Tom had shifted beyond that. Armed with knowledge and inspiration, he refused to relinquish the edge he had found. "You've changed, Dad," Jess said suddenly, breaking him from his thoughts. "I can see it. I think you actually believed what you said today." "I do," Tom replied, glancing at her, "and I need you to believe it too. It's time we take this journey together, not just in the kitchen, but in everything." With each day breaking anew, Tom felt increasingly less burdened by the weight of judgment. He was confident, connected, enlightened. With determination imprinted in his heart, he resolved to invite Mike into this new reality, as well determined to show how transformative changes could ripple outward and uplift those he cared for. The next morning would come, and he would be ready not just to challenge Mike's comments, but to demonstrate the compelling possibilities behind the choices he'd made. Tom looked forward to the confrontation that might pave the way for stronger connections not only with Jess, but with every doubter who had helped forge his path. "I'm not sure how Dad got here," he thought with conviction, "but he is here to stay." Tomorrow was going to be different. Today was only a preview of the delicious future he was working toward. With Jess at his side and a growing conviction deep within, Tom felt ready to conquer the world one bite at a time. This is your moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really makes a difference. Comment below your reactions and thoughts about how this transformation could inspire others. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let them know they, too, can embark on their own journey of change. Don't wait even one more second to support this transformative channel.